Welcome to the Chief Architect Kitchen Design video series. Our design today is called the Zero Sum Kitchen. You can see this completed design and download the sample at chiefarchitect.com under our sample section. I will go through each of the steps required to create the design, the construction documents, and renderings. You can use these same steps to create your client's dream kitchen or bath. If you'd like to get a free trial version of Chief Architect, you can download one from our website. So let's get started. As I begin, here's a completed view of the floor plan that we're going to go through and create, our wall elevation, and finally a cross section. Well, let's open up the program and begin our floor plan. Chief Architect Residential Design software includes the major architectural elements for walls, windows, doors, cabinets, electrical, roofs, framing, everything that you need for residential design. And to begin our kitchen, I'm going to use an exterior wall tool, and I'm going to shape out the rectangular room just simply by drawing our walls. You'll notice when I get to the final wall there, I get a visual indicator that snaps to show me alignment. And with our dimension tools, we have an automatic exterior dimension that you can place the dimensions with. And when you have these walls, you can resize them just by simply clicking on them, or you can highlight the dimension and enter in a specific number. In this case, I'll enter in 24 feet. And again, if you want to highlight the wall, you can easily move it, resize it. Let's go ahead and select this dimension, and we'll enter in 32 feet. Once we've got that set up, if you're a kitchen and bath designer, let's go ahead and zoom in here. You'll notice that my dimension is actually going to the outside of this wall. And in Chief Architect, our walls are actually composed of different layers. Let's explore this wall just for a minute. In this wall type, you'll notice that it actually has 6 different layers here. Sheetrock, siding, the sheathing, and when I do a materials list, all of these components will show up. So, kitchen and bath designers, or interior designers, typically only want to dimension to the wall surface. So I can set my dimensions up to do that. We also have a specific tool to allow you to do your interior dimensions. So with our interior dimension tool, let's go ahead and switch my set so it will display in inches. Interior dimension, I'll just drag a dimension through this way and a dimension through this way. Let's pull those dimensions up and over. And if I zoom in here, you can see that I'm going to have 276 inches of wall space where I'm going to go ahead and place my cook hood and range. With the 3D camera overview tool, we can take a top-down view look of the design. Notice that we already have the materials for the flooring, the baseboard, and the wall colors, as well as the ceiling height. All of these are defaults that I've set up for this template plan. If I double-click on the room, you can see that my ceiling height is 109 1/8. On the diagram on the right-hand side of the panel here is information with different layers for the ceiling structure, the floor structure, and with an 8-foot ceiling, by the time you add those components up, the total dimension is 109 1/8. If you're an interior designer, you may only care about the finished ceiling height, which is 107 5/8. Let's go ahead and close this and add our windows. Let's go ahead and rotate around here. While you're in your 3D view, you can use the window tool or the door tool and place your objects in here, and you can easily reposition them, resize them. And if I tile my screen here to look at both views at the same time, you can see exactly where this window is located if I zoom in. And if I select that window in our 3D or in our 2D view, you can see the exact location of it. And just like we moved the walls, we can move this window. You can also highlight the dimension and enter in a specific number. I'm going to try 7 inches and 3/8 from the inside of that wall. Actually, if you look at that, it's actually going to the framing layer. You can set that up to go to the sheetrock if you want for your dimensions. Once I have that window in location, let's go ahead and go back into our main 3D view. Let's double click on that window And when you have the window open, this is a generic custom window in Chief Architect. We also include manufacturer windows if you want to use a manufacturer specific window. But with a Chief Architect window, you can change the look of the object. In this case, I've changed it to a fixed window. Let's go ahead and change the width to 32 and perhaps 60 inches. And then our floor to top is 100 inches. Notice I've already set my default for the color of the frame and the casing. And on the interior side, if you notice the casing tab, there are many tabs along the top. I've suppressed the interior casing, but you'll find many options that you can create a variety of window styles using the program. So with our dimensions set, let's choose OK. And I may need to go back and reset that dimension since we made a change to it. So let's go ahead and set that back to 7 3/8. And now let's go ahead and select that window with the copy tool, and I'm going to reflect it about the center of our design. So now you can see exactly where those two windows are that are going to frame our kitchen. Now doors work the same way. I'm going to use my door tool, place the door over here. Notice it already came in at a particular size. That's again because I've set my dimension. If you want to resize these objects, all you have to do is click on it. Notice that it went from a double door down to a single door. And just like the window, let me adjust the dimension, make that 65 inches or 66 inches. And you get a preview update. Again, notice all of the options in our panel here that you have control over each element in this door. And this is just a custom door from Chief Architect. You can use a manufacturer door as you could for the windows. Select OK. And again, if I tile my screens, we can highlight this door, get a dimension, and enter in a specific dimension for the distance off of that wall. Now, if I want to add specific dimensions, let's go ahead and go back into our dimension tool, and let's just go ahead and run another dimension through here. And notice that if I get a dimension that I don't want, in this case I picked up the entire wall, there's a diamond. If I click on that dimension, I can just pull it off and set it exact. And that's actually going to the inside of the sheetrock. And if I want that specific to be 72 inches in this case, I've got that set up to be that way. Let me clean up this dimension for the door. As an interior designer, what I want to do is I want to have the dimension for the casing to be on the inside and not on the outside. So I'm going to highlight that dimension, and rather than redrawing it on the inside, I'm just going to select this diamond and I'm going to pull it onto the inside. Now I've suppressed the casing on my doors and windows for this style, so I don't have a block that will show the casing style. Now if I zoom out, and the next time I draw my dimension for the windows, let's draw it on the inside this time. That way it will pick it up the correct way. And let's go ahead and pull that out. And if I zoom in, I can actually clean up this dimension and make it a little more readable by pulling that dimension number off to the side. Each one of these dimensions, you have the ability to change the arrow style, the text style. Everything can be customized to your preference with your dimensions. The next structural component that I want to put in the design is our ceiling and the open truss and ventilation system that we have. In a cross section, you can see a little bit more detail what we're going to do. The first thing is to put a roof on, and then I'm going to go ahead and draw our truss in there. So back in the design, if I go into our build roof options, let's go ahead and open that up. There are a variety of roof styles that you can generate automatically in the program, and based on the roof style, it somewhat predicates the type of ceiling you may have. So what I want to do is I want to check and build a 5 and 12 pitch roof. I'm going to leave all of the other roof defaults as they are because I'm really only focused on the interior design. Once I build the roof, you can see it in 2D, And with an overview camera, you can see what that looks like in our 3D view. And what we've done here is we've created an envelope for our truss. And you'll notice in this glasshouse view that I still have a ceiling plane in there. So what I will do is click on the room here. And let's go ahead and remove that ceiling out of there because I want it to be a vaulted open area in the kitchen and living space. We'll regenerate that view and get rid of the ceiling, and you're actually just seeing the attic line in there, but the ceiling plane is now out. So I have an envelope here that we can go ahead and generate our truss in here. So let's close our 3D view and use our framing tool to build our truss. And when you draw a truss in Chief Architect, the envelope is already created based on the pitch of the roof and whether it has a ceiling or not. With the truss drawn, let's double click and make some modifications to this. I want the top core to be 12 inches, bottom and webbing and thickness all to be 8 inches. And the final option that I want to do is check King Post. Select OK. And now that that's generated, I'm going to go ahead and copy that using a multiple copy tool. If you look down in your lower left hand section of your monitor, I'll select that all trusses that I copy in an interval of 6 feet or 72 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and drag a handful of those trusses across. And now I'm going to group select them because the first truss I just drew at an unknown distance from the wall, and with all 5 of these trusses selected, I'm just going to center those inside of our room. Now they're exactly centered. And if I take a 3D overview here, you can see the way those trusses have been set up. And I'm going to change the color here in a minute, but for now you can see the way the interior of the space will look. Let me change a few of the colors and textures that we have. The first thing I want to do is let's use the color off of our door with our material eyedropper here. Select the door, and I'm going to apply that to our base molding. And now notice that my paint icon is showing up as a spray can. That means to paint in a solid color. I have an option down here again in the lower left hand section of the monitor to blend the color, and now I can apply that as more as of a stain, and you can still see the wood grain through here, and I'm just going to apply those to the different trusses. So now I have the dark view of that. The next thing I want to do is let's change our flooring color. In our library I have a variety of different catalogs. There's over 10,000 items that you can use from Chief Architect or manufacturers, or create your own favorites folder, which I have, and I typically create a grouping of the favorites items, whether it's appliances, cabinets, windows, or textures, and save those into a folder. I also have a collection specifically for each project. So I'm going to grab the flooring material here, and I'm just going to apply that onto the floor. Let's proceed by adding our appliances and cabinets along the back wall. I have a perspective view up, and you can design in a perspective view, a plan view, and an elevation view. And I'm going to begin with a perspective view. The first thing I'm going to do is Chief Architect is layer based, so you can mask different objects from being displayed, whether that may be your HVAC, electrical, or other objects. In this case, these trusses, I don't want to see those while I'm doing my design work. So I'm just going to open up that truss, and I'm going to hide that layer by unchecking this box for display. Select OK. And then another trick that I like to use temporarily is I'm going to select this outside wall, and I'm going to make it invisible for the time being, so I can kind of zoom in here and see what we've got against our wall. Now, to begin with, I want to start with this back wall, and I want to center the cook range and cook hood along that wall. Then we'll lay out our base and wall cabinets. Inside of our library, again, I've got my favorites folder under my user catalog that I like to use. If you want to use a manufacturer or the larger custom library that is included with Chief Architect, you can browse those. You can also use this search mechanism to find your various components or materials. So to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and place our commercial range, and I'm going to use a 48-inch range. And I'm going to click and place that as well as our cook hood, and we'll just place that as well. Now, if I select our range, I'm going to use the center tool, and I can actually center that inside of this room. So I'll click and place the center, and I'll do the same thing with the cook hood. Use the center, and I'll just get that off of the cook range. Now those two items are exactly centered in the room. As long as I have my library open, I'm also going to place my refrigerator, and I'm just going to slide that over off to the left here, maybe in front of that window temporarily. Let's close the 3D view and go into a wall elevation. I'm also going to close my library. Our elevation tools, you can take a wall elevation or a cross section, will actually show you all the layers of the floor and ceiling. With our wall elevation camera, we'll just point at the wall we want, take an elevation view, and now you can see the wall elevation pretty clearly. With my base cabinet, I'm going to place a base cabinet off to the right hand side of our cook range, and if I double click on this cabinet or click on the cabinet, you can resize the cabinet pretty easily, and if you double click on it, you have control over all of the components in here. The first thing that I'm going to do is mark it to have flat sides, because when I bump it to the cook range, I want to make sure that the countertop doesn't intrude into the cooktop. And let's go ahead and change the width back to 24 inches. Select OK, and I'm going to go ahead and bump that next to the range. Now the look I'm after for the base cabinets is to have a C-channel door and drawer style. So if I double click on this cabinet, I can customize this cabinet in a number of ways. If I click on the front of the door and drawer style, first of all I can change those face items. And on the door and drawer tab here, I can come in and choose the style of the door, the hardware, and the same for the drawer. So let's go ahead and explore using the library. And when you open up the library, you can use either the generic custom cabinets from Chief Architect or the manufacturer catalogs. Let's begin with the custom catalogs from Chief Architect. And I'm after the Euro style base cabinet look. So let's go ahead and select that for our door style. And let's remove the hardware in this case since it's integrated in. And let's do the same thing for the drawer here. So back into the library, into the Chief Architect custom catalog, and we'll choose that same Euro style look. Change the handle since it's integrated. And now that I have this change, you'll see the preview update as I make all the changes in this panel. Once I've made those changes, I want to set that as my default. And you'll notice down here in the left hand toolbar at the bottom of your screen that the Set as Default tool allows me to set that object as a default. Now when I place all future base cabinets, that comes in as the default. A great way to maybe save yourself some time as you begin your design process if you know in advance what style of cabinets you're going to use. So let's go ahead and bump this cabinet to the cooktop here. And all of the cabinet face items can be customized. So if I want to remove this drawer at the upper end of the cabinet, all I have to do is click on it, press the delete key, and remove it. And all of the components that you have for face items, you can easily add or remove those, just as I've done here. Now for the refrigerator envelope, I'm going to use a partition and place a partition. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. Bump that to the base cabinet. If you double click on the partition, clearly I could resize that in this elevation view, but sometimes it's easier to open up the element. And I'm going to set the height to 84 inches and change the depth to 24 inches. Now bump the refrigerator to the partition. And now I want to take that partition that we created and copy and reflect that around the refrigerator so I don't have to draw it again. So I've got that envelope surrounding the refrigerator and a couple of base cabinets to the left of the refrigerator. And in this case, I want to open up the cabinet and create a bank of drawers. So let's go ahead and choose Add New on the face front. Choose the drop down for drawer, and let's go ahead and add an 8-inch drawer. And finally, this bottom face item, change it from a right door to a drawer. And now I've got my 3-door bank. Now I'll create one copy of that base cabinet and slide it over here. Zoom out a little bit. Go back into our library for our double oven, and I've got a double oven cabinet that I've already created. Any cabinet that you have done any customization to, or any style that you want, you can save that, block it in, and put it in your library. And we're going to explore that further when we get to our island. Let me bump that to our base cabinet. Now while you're in your elevation view, let's use our dimension tool. And let's drag a dimension through our boxes and pull that down. And there may be some cases where I picked up elevations that I don't want. So let's go ahead and highlight that dimension because I don't want this window being picked up. And you'll notice when I select the dimension line that I have diamonds that show up. You can easily grab those diamonds if it doesn't pick up what you're after and just adjust those pretty easily. I'm going to show the automatic wall elevation so I don't have to manually draw these here in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and pull that off the window here. And with the dimension tools, of course, I have a centerline dimension and an end-to-end dimension. And I'm going to show all of that when we get to the point after our wall cabinets are put in here. I see this dimension down here is a little bit larger than it should be because I've toggled that wall off to be invisible when we're in our perspective view. So I'm going to come back into our floor plan view and toggle that wall back from invisible to solid. That way our wall elevation will be more accurate and not show that extended area of wall covered by the invisible. With our wall cabinet tool, let's go ahead and place our wall cabinet here. And what I want to do is let's go ahead and place our wall cabinet off to the right hand side of the cook range. Let's pull that up to be a 42-inch wall cabinet. And I'm going to copy and reflect that around the cook hood. And then finally we'll add one more above the refrigerator. So let's stretch that to be 48 inches above the refrigerator, and then we'll snap that down. If I open up that cabinet above the refrigerator, I want to change the depth on it to be 24 inches. And now I want to group select, so I'm going to hold the Shift key down here and grab all of those wall cabinets And with the wall cabinet, I want to match the base cabinet door style. So back into the library for the door style, let's find that European C-channel style door. Select OK. And then, actually, I missed the hardware option. So let's remove that hardware since it's integrated. And we'll do the same thing for the wall cabinet. So door and drawer, we'll go into the library here. And we'll find that European. Select OK. No hardware in this case. And then finally for the drawer that we have below it, same exact thing. Give me a minute here to find it. And also no hardware. Okay. Now, I want to add a crown molding to both the wall cabinets and the full height cabinet. So again, I'm just going to shift select all of those cabinets. And you'll see a molding tab up here. Let's go in and browse into our molding options. There's a variety of crown moldings, of course, edge moldings for your countertops, light rails, all the different moldings that you want to use. And I'm actually going to just choose a basic molding profile out of the door and window casing. And let me go ahead and change that to something like 2 inches high. And then I've got both a vertical and horizontal offset that I can change. And for now, I'm just going to offset that on top of the cabinet box, the same height as the molding itself. Select OK. And now finally, I want to select these two wall cabinets. And let's go ahead and I want to change those to a glass style. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my material eyedropper, pick up the window, and I'm going to apply that here to the different door style. I'm going to adjust these cabinets here slightly and have them all line up. So make that 48 inches, make our cook range 102, and then we'll also pull this cabinet up to be 48 inches as well. Now for a backsplash behind the cook range, I'm going to use a tool that we call our Polyline Solid. And this can be used for a variety of things. If I zoom in here, I'm going to come in here and align based on the two existing backsplashes, and I'm going to draw a segment in there, and we'll go ahead and pull that down to the point that we want the backsplash, and then we'll go ahead and pull it up to the end point near the ceiling here. And let me double click on that. I'm going to set the thickness to something like a 1/2 inch. And then with a material eyedropper, let's go ahead and pick up the material from the backsplash that we currently have on there. And the final thing I want to do is let's go over into our appliances and fixtures and find a pot filler. And we'll go ahead and place that pot filler in this area. And I may actually have to split my screen here to place that pot filler since I've added that custom backsplash. Let's go ahead and place that. And we'll just pull it back. So depending on what you're doing, sometimes elevation view or plan view is the most effective way to place an element. So just pull that pot filler, and now let's explore our automatic dimension. We showed earlier how we can place our manual dimension through the boxes. We also have an automatic dimension for wall elevations. One of them is the National Kitchen and Bath Association Auto wall dimension. And it may end up picking additional things up as we press that, but it's going to give us a quick way that we can begin with, and then we can clean those up. So once I press that, you'll notice that if we zoom in down here, it ended up picking up some extra dimensions. So I'm actually just going to remove that extra set because I'd drawn those manually previously. And if we scroll around here, I may want to pull this dimension down here slightly to get out of our center line. And you'll notice that there are some things that it picked up. Center line for the refrigerator, probably don't need that, so I'm going to grab that diamond, pull it off. You may or may not want your casing selected. So just grab those diamonds, pull it off, and you can kind of work your way around and clean that up. If there are things that it didn't select, let's see, it's also got the center line for the oven. Let's go ahead and pull that off. In this case, it did not pick up the toe kick, and it did not pick up the countertop thickness. So what I want to do is I'm just going to draw a line. So I've used a W on the keyboard as a shortcut. I'm going to draw a line here, and if I select that dimension, you'll see the diamonds that it has selected here. And there's an extra diamond that I'm just going to pull down and select. And now I can highlight that line, and that toe kick was actually 4.5 inches. So I've got that dimension set there. And now I'm going to copy that CAD line up, and let's just pull that up to where our countertop is. And let's go ahead and stick that where our countertop thickness and highlight the dimension and set it at 1.5 inches. And we'll just slide that dimension up there. And I can adjust that extension as well. All of these dimensions, if you double click on them, you have control over the different arrow styles, primary format, secondary format. So if you want to change the way those look, you can make those changes to fit your design styles. Let me close our wall elevation and go back into a 3D overview and change the colors and materials for the kitchen. If I zoom in here, I want to have a few different colors. And if I open up our completed image, I have a combination of a zebra wood, beige color for the cabinets. Let me open up the library and let's browse in and find some of those materials. And many of them I've added into my favorites folder for this kitchen. So let me grab our zebra wood first of all and apply that into our cabinet here. And notice that I can actually apply that on a single component, or down here in the lower left hand corner of your screen, I can actually apply that to the entire cabinet there. So the next thing that I want to do is let's go ahead and apply that to our partition, and let's grab, see if I can zoom in and grab that partition there. And let's grab these couple of wall cabinets. And then I want to grab the bisque lacquer finish. Let's apply that to the base cabinets. You see I just click simply on the different objects and apply that. And for the countertop material, I want to find a white granite. And we'll just come in here and apply that. Now I can also apply that in the entire room if I wanted to by changing this paint mode down here in the lower left hand corner of your screen. And the final material selection I want to change, let's change our crown molding here. Let's use the black off of the window casing. So I've selected my material eyedropper tool in the upper right hand section of your screen. Click on the molding or the casing of the window, and let's change that to a full paint mode. And we'll just paint this molding around here. So we've got those components. As I design the island for our kitchen, the first step that I'm going to do is lay out our cabinet boxes. insert the fixtures and appliances. And then I'm going to move on and create this specialty shape countertop that's raised above the cabinets 6 inches. Let's close this rendering that I've completed already. And in our floor plan view, I want to select our base cabinet, and I'm just going to place a base cabinet that will begin as our sink. So I'm going to rotate that front around, and if I double click on this cabinet, I actually want to set the width to be something like 39 inches for the sink base. And then on the front, let's go ahead and remove that drawer. Click delete. And now I've got a 39-inch cabinet that we can use for the sink base. With this cabinet, I want that centered on the cook range. So again, use the center tool in the lower left-hand corner. Select our cook range, and now that's centered. And I also want that to be approximately 74 inches from that cook range. So I'll go ahead and enter that dimension right in there. Another base cabinet that we'll use for our dishwasher we'll place here. And finally, let's go into our library here. And I've already got a microwave cabinet that I've added into my library. Let's go ahead and place that. Again, you can group select these items and add them into your library. Snap that into place. So if you've added a specialty cabinet or group selected a cabinet with a fixture or lighting, you can add that in. And in the library, let's also open up our dishwasher. Let's click on this cabinet, insert that into the cabinet, and a sink. Scroll down, find our sink. And these are just my favorites again that I've added into my folder. You can easily add these, or you can go out and search at a other custom sink, appliance, or use manufacturer specific elements. Another base cabinet that we'll put off to the side, I want to make this a 21-inch cabinet, and I also want to make this a pull-out for a recycling center. So I'm going to actually select this drawer here, delete, and I may even convert that. That's, you see the opening indicator. I want that to be a pull-out, so let's just set that to be a pull-out drawer. And one more cabinet that will actually make a corner cabinet. Stretch that out to be 36 inches. And to convert that into a corner cabinet, I'm going to double click on it, open it up. First thing is I'm going to delete the drawer out of it, and then the specialty type, just choose corner. And with this corner cabinet, I want to create a slight curvature to it, so I'm going to set a concave dimension of -3 inches. You see the update of the preview. Select OK, and it looks like I'm going to have to rotate that around now. Go ahead and do that. And one more cabinet off to the side. Let's go ahead and let's bump that into place. 18-inch cabinet, and on this cabinet I want it to be a bank of drawers. So let's go in, add new, choose a drawer, give it a dimension, and this bottom door will convert it into a drawer. So now I have my bank of cabinets and the appliances and fixtures in for the island. The next step will be to create the standoff island. Before I do that, however, let's go ahead and pick up our microwave cabinet defaults, use our material eyedropper, select the countertop material, and I'm going to apply that to all of these cabinets. So to do that, I'm going to just change the scoping of the material painter to room, click on the countertop, and make that change globally at one time. We'll do the same thing for the zebra wood on this base cabinet and select that. Let's close down our 3D view and move on and create our standoff island. On the kitchen island, I want to create a uniquely shaped custom countertop. And there's a few ways to do that in Chief Architect. Let's explore those options. In our kitchen here, I've got this L shape. The first option is to use a custom countertop tool and create a simple shaped cabinet, and we'll just come out here at some distance. And step one is to have a simple rectangular bar. Step two is to use the break tool down here in the lower left section of the menu. Click break, find the center of that cabinet, come over here, click a break over there. We'll snap it to the edge. And now if I double click on this, I can set the height off of the countertop. We'll raise it up 6 inches. Set the thickness at 3. Select OK. And I've got that shape. And in a 3D view, you can see the L-shaped cabinet. And I've also pre-drawn the shape that we actually want. With a simple L-shaped cabinet, you can click on it, and on this edge, you can use Change to Arc and create a shape. Do the same thing with that. And by the time you use the Change to Arc, I could actually add some more breaks in here and create that exact shape that I have back here in the back of the room. Now the other way to do this, let's close our 3D view here. Let's delete our cabinet countertop in the back. A secondary way to draw this countertop, which may be the preferred way, is to use the spline tool in Chief Architect. And if you take a look at the completed countertop off to the left-hand side, that's the shape I'm after. And I've already taken the liberty to kind of create an outline for that. I've set that on a layer, and these are just simply markers that create the shape of that countertop. I'm going to use a spline tool and just simply connect the dots, and then we'll create the spline countertop and modify it to roughly the shape that we have, that we want off to the left here. So I'm just connecting the dots here, and once I'm finished, you can see roughly the shape of that object. Now there's a tool called Advanced Splines. If we turn that on, you'll see some additional edit handles that allow us to create a different shape. These edit handles, you can come in here and move it. You can also elongate and make this shape a little bit longer. And if you spend a little bit of time, we can create the exact shape that we're after. Let's go ahead and zoom in here, and we'll pull this up a little bit until we get a nice smooth arc. You can also open up individual arcs and specify the radius if you'd like as well. You can move these elements like this. And again, if you want to create the different shapes, just simply come in here and you can create that shape that you're after. Smooth that out just a little bit. And while it may not be exact, let's go ahead and convert this using our Convert tool down here in the lower left. Convert to countertop. And again, we'll specify what the height at 42 and the thickness at 3 inches. Take a 3D overview, and then we'll change the material to the same orange material that we have. Let's go ahead and use our material eyedropper. Select that and apply the color. That's how you go through and create that style of cabinet, countertop. Let me close this 3D view down. The next step is I'm going to go ahead and delete that countertop that isn't quite perfect, and we'll move in the other countertop that is have the exact dimensions. I'm just going to use a point-to-point move, and we'll just snap that over here. Now the next step to support this countertop is to use standoffs. And a standoff is another CAD tool that we'll use. And I'm just going to create a cylinder. If we zoom in here, let's go ahead and open up this cylinder. And I want the radius to be 1.5 0.5 or 3 inches in diameter, and also to have a height of 3 inches. And finally, the Z value, which is floor to bottom, we'll go ahead and set that to 36 inches. Now let's go ahead and position that approximately where we want. And finally, I'm going to use a multiple copy, and I'm going to set that to be every 16 inches, and we'll create a copy of that standoff. And one more set the other way using our multiple copy tool. And I've got my standoffs. Let's go back to our 3D view here. See if we can zoom in. And with the Remove Surface tool, we can simply remove the surface on that, and you can see those standoffs. And if I want to use our material eyedropper, we'll grab the material, the stainless, off of the faucet, make sure that it's in room mode, and I'll apply that to all of our standoffs so they're all now a stainless material. Add the countertop surface back, and now we have our supported custom countertop. The next step for the design, let's place our stools and electrical, and we'll also look at creating our cross section. Back to our 2D view. In the library, I have a favorites folder that I've created for this kitchen specifically. And one of the bonus libraries Chief Architect just recently announced was for kitchen styles. I've copied one of those lights into this favorite. You can download any of these components off of our library. Just see the 3D library catalog to do that. So with the light, let's go ahead and just place one over here. And I'm going to come back to the cross section here in a minute. The next thing is to find our stools, and I'm going to come in and place a couple of these stools. And I'm just going to randomly place these. Sometimes I like to create a different orientation of them to make it look like it's more lived in. So I'm just going to rotate them at an interesting angle and not worry too much about the positioning of them. Now for the electrical, let's go back into our layer set. Remember, we have a set of open trusses in the design, and I want to turn those trusses on. And you can see where that truss is located. Let's grab the light and let's center it on that truss. And using the cross section tool, let's actually take a back clip cross section. A back clip means that it's only going to create a slice. So in this slice, you can see where I placed that light, which it actually snapped to the floor. Let's go ahead and pull that up, and let's go ahead and push that up here. If we double click on the light, let's set it to be offset from the floor, something like 70 inches. Be a little more precise. That's a little bit too far. Let's try 69 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to take that light, let's use our center tool, center it on the sink, and I'm just going to create another copy of that. We'll just pull it over to the center of the base cabinet over here, and perhaps one more copy of that off to the end of the corner cabinet. And just like in the wall elevation, you can run your dimensions. If you want to run your dimensions through the boxes, you can simply create that dimension line, pull that down, add your center lines in. If it's picked up dimensions that you don't want, just simply grab those dimensions, pull those off, and it's very easy to set that up. The final step in our video is to create our construction drawings for this kitchen. Construction drawings can consist of the 3D renderings, floor plans, wall elevations, and the cross sections. In Chief Architect, we create the construction drawings with layout pages. And in our layout files, they're linked to the plan files, and they're always synchronized. Any of the 3D renderings that you may have created, in this case a line drawing, where maybe you don't want to show the client the full colors and materials that are going to be used, you can also send these out to your layout pages, as well as a full photorealistic rendering, and any of these renderings can complement your design documents. So let's go back into our program and take a look at how we can create that. I have my floor plan up, and the first thing that I want to be aware of is I want to make sure that different layers are on or off. And you'll notice in this floor plan that I have up, none of my electrical is showing. I have cabinet nomenclature on. My trusses are showing. These are all layers that you can easily turn on in the program. We also have what's called layer sets. Layer sets allow you to quickly turn on a different layer. So if you want to turn on your electrical, you can simply go in and quickly turn on those layers, or you can turn on individual layers as we've been doing throughout the video. So for the floor plan, I have all of the elements being displayed as I want, and now I want to send this to my layout page and have it linked so I can begin creating the construction drawings. So if I toggle over to my layout page that I already have open, page 1 here, I've already created and sent the images and the renderings out with the photorealistic rendering on the top and my artistic renderings on the bottom. On page 2 is where I want to send the floor plan out. So let's toggle back to our floor plan, and if I want to send that out to my layout file, I'll choose that out of my menu, and this is a little bit larger file, so I'm going to send that out at 3/8 inch scale. Typically you might do that at 1/2 inch, but since this is a larger plan, I'm going to send it out at 3/8 inch scale. And if I double click on this, anytime you make a change, so if we want to move this door, close that, it's automatically linked, so you don't ever have to worry about being out of synchronization with your design process. Let's go ahead and go back into the floor plan. The next section I want to send out to the layout page is the wall elevation that we've created. So in this case, I'm going to send this out at a 1/2 inch scale, and let's put that on page 3. And you'll notice that in this case I have an extra label in here. If I open this up, I can suppress that label from being displayed. And finally, on page 4, let's go ahead and go back to our floor plan, open that saved camera we have for the cross section, and we'll send that to page 4 at a 1/2 inch scale. So now I've created the complete set of construction drawings that I need in this layout page. That's the end of the video. If you'd like to download this as a sample plan, feel free to go to the chiefarchitect.com website, see our samples page. You can download a copy of this. If you want to get a free trial version of Chief Architect, you'll also find one on the website. You can then open this plan up, follow along in the video, make changes to it, or design your own custom kitchen. If you have any questions about Chief Architect, feel free to visit our website or give us a call, and we'd be happy to help you out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.